again in September when we're like less busy because I want to like make sure everything's all good.
Yeah.
But that's amazing.
I know. And yeah, I think
that should be talked about. Why isn't Guelph today?
I don't know. That's a great question.
That's a really fascinating conversation.
I'm back. Sure. Just say apologize. Blame it on me. Don't care. You guys are great.
I can blame it on you. I'm down for that.
Are we live now?
Hi.
And we're back. I was told to blame it on the sound guy and the production guy, but I'm not. It's just literally a bad juju of every time I'm in this nightclub, something goes terribly wrong. So,
it's not. It's only half true. We actually love Onyx.
I actually love this place. It used to be like my second home before all this COVID stuff and all this stuff. I know you were here a lot. I know I saw you out here.
It's sad.
I saw you out here.
Yeah, you miss it.
But yeah, we're back. We're here with Queen, Genres of People with Gain Media. She's brought guests. Let's get to know your guests a little bit.
Talk about yourself,
All right.
beautiful queens.
Yeah, sure.
Can we get your names, what organizations you're working with, what you're doing in the community, all that kind of fun stuff?
Yeah, so my name's Dee. I've been back in Guelph for just over a year now, so kind of newer since doing university here. And I got connected with Queen for the protest. Literally met her the day of the protest. We had 6 days as a group to pull this all together. And it was for me all just about kind of working through a lot of grief that was going on personally at the time. And so that was my opportunity to really get connected with everyone. And since that, I think my focus mainly has been, I don't know if any of that was picked up before, but on diversifying the outdoor community in the Guelph area, specifically working with Guelph Outdoor School, making sure there's lots of representation for kids, for young ones, with nature connection and seeing themselves enjoying the outdoors, seeing themselves in spaces that are primarily taken up by white bodies for the most part. And I want to change that story because that was important to me as a kid, to see myself in the outdoors, to see myself in different kind of circles. And it wasn't always available to me. So that's kind of been my focus ever since the protest.
I like it. Yeah, and that's definitely big, like for the children of the future, right? So yeah, we got to do everything we can for them.
Well. Yeah.
I'm a dad, so I'm fully on board with that. Like, hell yeah. But yeah, I like that. That's Dee, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
So my name is Allie. I'm one of the founding members of the Halton Hills Alliance for Social Change.
Oh.
So yeah, shout out Anna, shout out Olivia, shout out Bonnie, love y'all.
Shout.
So we are a BIPOC female-led group based in Halton Hills, which is like very rural.
That's like near Milton and stuff. Like out those ways?
It's out like between here and Acton, Georgetown, all that way. Oakville, Milton's part of Halton Hills.
No, it's just so like just no nonchalant. Yeah.
I'm like,
I'm there.
I'm like, I failed geography. So that's where Halton Hills is. But we are currently working with the Halton District School Board on collecting race-based data in schools, as well as doing some education training for faculty, which is good. We are also going to try very, very hard to work with our ward counselors in some positive changes, like, for example, having a diversity board exist. Because we know that the funding is there, but haven't seen much.
And I don't mean to ask us to be ignorant of any sorts, but is there not already like a panel for that? Or
you would think.
You would think, right?
You would think.
A bunch of white people with fucking money. You'd think there'd be a panel for it.
You would.
Or there panels that are diversity panels with just white people.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we're trying to change that because I also, I mean, I take that not lightly. So yeah, we're doing a lot of that stuff right now.
That's awesome. I know we've all heard how you've met. You guys want to tell the viewers how you met? I know Dee met at the protest.
Yeah, met Queen at the protest after my roommate and I got connected through some other friends, and so that was back in June.
Mhm.
We've been sisters ever since because we were fast friends. It just took so much of our time and energy to put that together, so much emotion, so much love. Really, really kind of an impactful day for all of us and the community. And that's how we got connected that way. And then with Allie, kind of, yeah, getting connected through the other protests in the area.
Yeah, it was I always talk about like divine entanglement brought us together because and I said that the day of the protest, like all these 8 women, like I knew none of them. And it was just by chance that between that Monday morning and that Friday evening, we met and had to immediately trust each other. There was no other option. And I think I worked really hard at trying to be transparent with them about how I was feeling, what I needed to be doing better as a leader, and advice that I could take. And it was a tough week.
And we needed that vulnerability from you, I think, to trust in you and to trust in all of us that we could pull this off in such a short amount of time.
Mhm.
And you're right, like you needed to be able to share that emotion because it was a tough week.
Yeah,
for a lot of reasons.
It was a really tough week. You know, I think we expected backlash from our white community. That's what we knew. What I wasn't prepared for was the backlash from some of our BIPOC community and how to properly deal with that and make sure voices were heard and were seen. And I think that pain that I took on from that community was tough for me. And so I knew that I didn't want anyone else feeling that way. So once I found out about Alicia running the Georgetown protest, I was like, I gotta reach out to this girl. And those were tough weeks for us too.
Yep.
Those were really tough weeks because I knew for her what was coming after the protest.
Yeah.
But then she was still dealing with what we had to go through
Organization,
during,
everything, yeah.
which was so much. And I think people also forgot that we were dealing with the grief of our own. Regis Paquette's family was close to like me, and when I lived in Toronto, so I was trying to grieve. I was trying to give everybody else's pain a space as well and allow people to be vulnerable. So, you know, I knew for us, it was important to connect to the other leaders who were doing things. And Alicia and I hit it off like that too.
Instantly. Can I also just interject to let everybody know that while this girl was going through every sort of backlash, emotional vulnerability, everything, she was asking me how I was feeling, how I was doing. Do you want me to Uber Eats you your favorite meal?
She did the same thing to me, minus the Uber Eats.
Man.
I just asked you if you ate though when I got here. Like, you eaten yet? Yeah, it was important, you know, I think. And at the end of the day, like people can't see her in the background, but shout out to Sophia.
Hey.
Sophia is one of our beautiful white allies. And honestly, we could not do it without you. And you should know that. And you grew up
Give it
with
up for Sophia.
And you grew up with Sophia. And that's just like so crazy because I didn't know that.
What did you call it?
Divine entanglement.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All
you
of
know,
us.
and it takes the strength of women and the emotions that we have to deal with to get through these times.
We were all women in the organizing community, and on
Yeah.
your side too.
Yep.
Fergus protester
Yeah.
leader was a woman.
Yep.
All women.
Kitchener, Selma was a
and
leader.
that's a perfect segue into this question. What does that look like as a woman? The leaders of this movement.
Nothing new.
Say it for the people at the back. Say it for the people at the back. Nothing new. You know, like we talk about like Nelson Mandela all the time and praise him, and we should. But we don't talk about Willie,
Yep.
and we don't talk about all these other women in the background who are while our Black men are imprisoned and attacked. We're taking on the load of raising our families, being harassed by cops ourselves, being sexually harassed, being
Or we're being institutionalized as well in mental health facilities just because it's not jail. Don't forget.
yeah, and it just the list goes on. And I think you've always seen us try to thrive. I think the best word for women is resilience, or at least that's how I feel right now in these times. Is we have to be the people because we know that our men are scared, and they should be. We have every right to be scared right now, and we deal with a lot. but I think that we're not the immediate target. We're like the sneak attack. We're like, we're going to attack you from the front, but secretly your castle that you forgot to watch with all those women and children are now defending themselves. And I think we've always seen women stand up as leaders, and we just don't talk about it.
And I think it's forgotten about too. It's like, it's this forgotten strength, you know, it's something that, like you said, like kind of like sneaks up. It's not appreciated enough, I would say. But it's there, and you can't deny the strength and the perseverance of a woman.
Resilience. And
I'm not going to argue with
perseverance,
that.
I get that too, but also I think what's really important is that it takes women leaders because we have that empathy, we have that emotional intelligence to kind of say, like, how do we bring the community together in this moment? And it's going to be a lot of women-led kind of organization, and we saw that in all of these local protests, that it's and our fellow protest leaders were moms who were like, we need to make sure that we're raising our kids in a community that we can feel proud of. We need to make sure that we're teaching them the lessons that they need to kind of carry on with them.
Did they ever learn?
And did they ever? And we've got now little kids. Tristan is one of our homeboys. He's what, 4 years old. He's been to all the protests in the area.
Shout out Tristan.
Shout out to Tristan. And he's got his sign. He's all proud. He's saying Black Lives Matter.
That's amazing.
It's great to see the young folks coming out. And I've already kind of said it's important to me, but I think that's the power of women too, is bringing together families and communities and organizing around that.
Sorry, the look you gave me, you just like turned over. You're like,
Oh.
all right. Well, let's keep it going. So, talking specifically about women, right? They've already faced hurdles of inequity and all of that types pre-COVID, right? Screw COVID. I hate COVID. But now you guys face additional challenges in wake of the pandemic, right? So for Black women and for all women of color, I'm sorry, I can't read. How do you view the impact of the virus is the question.
I think the virus conversation comes up a lot, but like the real virus is the racist motherfuckers out there. Let me tell you that. But there's two pandemics, and I think we're just trying to figure out how to make through. And we've always been ones to find creative ways to make through, because our pandemic's been happening for 400 plus years. So this is definitely different. It's definitely challenging. It's difficult to run any organization, any business, as Onyx knows, as Troy Boy in the back knows, as you know, like we all know that it's so hard to be making it through this. We have to be creative. Resilient comes up again. And, you know, we had to find new ways to make sure people were safe during the protests. We had to make sure that if we continued the activism behind closed doors, what does that look like? So we also keep our community safe. We're at high risk of COVID. Like it's sad watching our community get taken from the hands of the cops, the hands of mental health issues, the hands of like the list goes on and on and on. For me, the virus hasn't been too hard to migrate through, because we've had to migrate through these different things. We've faced new challenges. So I don't know if it's definitely tough. Let me not degrade anyone right now and how their emotions are during this time, because it has been tough. But it's also like we lean on each other. I wouldn't make it through without my other women. Period. Like my sisters are the reason I can get up. When I'm having a bad day, I call my sisters. When I'm having, you know, an emotional crisis, I call my sisters. When I need ice cream, an event, I call my sisters. When I need a spliff and a hangout and talk about activism.
Hey.
Yes, I smoke weed and I'm an activist. I call my sisters, right? Like my boys are awesome, but my girls just get me. Even for Sandbox sisters.
Yeah. But also touching on the COVID-19 pandemic and how that affects women. We're going to come up to the lowest employment rates of women, especially women of color, that we've seen in decades. Women are now not even intending on going back to work because of the way that the school system is going. Everything's up in the air. Again, we're protectors. We want to protect our children, our families, you know, each other. So taking that risk is something that we're not really ready or willing to do. And I'm not speaking for all women. I don't have any children myself, so I can't really talk on that. But I mean, statistically, that's just a fact. It's that the unemployment rate is rising for us. That also transpires over to being subjected to a lot of domestic violence. So greatly, yeah. I can't even.
Yeah, no, that seemed intense for you to answer that question. You got a little in your feels, which I love. That's what it's about. Is we want to hear the expression, the emotion, all that behind all the words that everybody's saying. You know what? I don't want to do these questions.
Let's have a conversation.
So yeah, let's just shoot the shit. Sorry, but let's so Queen, you and I have known each other for a very long time, very long time. In high school, you know, I watched you deal with a lot of racism. Just being in that school myself, me being one of the ones, I always had your back. It's like not today, you know what I mean? Watching you grow from, you know, like let's go play some basketball, smoke some joints in the schoolyard to yeah, but it's a little different, right? So I've watched you grow from, you know, like we were shithead teenagers as everybody was, but now I look at you and you message me and I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, damn yeah, because I love everything you've done. I love everything you're doing. I'll keep pushing for you. I'll keep supporting. I'll keep promoting. I know Nick will. I know Belay will. I know Troy will. I know Sophia will. I know your lovely panel of ladies will 100% every time. My question is, when racism comes to you, right? Comes to you, right? When racism comes to you, right?
Comfortable.
How do you deal with it? And
Bye.
And what is the right way to deal with it?
Okay.
Violently. I'm totally kidding. I don't condone that.
Again, guys, I think I'm gonna leave again.
No. Just kidding.
Definitely
not coming for anybody. Don't.
The middle girl is scaring
But
me.
listen, I'm not playing. If someone came for you, I would come for them. That's just how it is, because we can't call the cops. We have to call our people, right? Like, because if I call the cops, one of us might not be here tomorrow, right? So that's not even if you say that, that's not even a joke. Like, that's just how it is.
Yeah. So the Halton Police Department was called because of a hate crime. Okay. So let's just how do I start this off without going too crazy into detail? There were Nazi monuments that were graffitied in Oakville, and they were looking for the people who put their art on these statues to persecute them and say that they were doing it's a hate crime against Nazis. Okay, so the Halton police thinks that it's a hate crime against Nazis to deface their statues. Now, two women of color were walking in their neighborhoods, walking their dogs, and men came up to them and tried to run them over. I'm not kidding. Tried to hit them with their car. Started saying Georgetown South. I looked directly at Sophia when I said that because she knows.
Sophia's from Georgetown, so
she knows. She's not even shocked. She's not surprised. Yeah, they were calling, saying these very, very awful things to these women, and these women, held their own and told them where to go. And then the action that was taken was they tried to run them over with the car. So when this was on videotape, everything, and when this was presented to Halton police, they gave these men a verbal warning for doing that.
Yo, Halton police, what the fuck's wrong with you? That's not right.
What's up?
I don't even.
That's not right.
I don't even have the words. Like, honestly, that is what we deal with. It doesn't, at the end of the day, like, for us, we do come from, mixed races and backgrounds and families, but like, people see me as Black, which is great because I'm Black and proud. You can come for me all you want. Like people, like during the protest week, I got tons of messages, tons of people. For me, one, thank you for the free publicity. Shout out. Two, like your life must really suck. Your life must really suck. And I almost pity them. Like I don't have the time. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm tired of telling the story not only to my family, but to my people I thought were friends. I'm tired of having the argument. I'm tired of calling people out. I'm tired of having to defend myself as a woman in such a misogyny world against leadership and women's standards. Like we just tired. So the next time like a person comes to me, someone came for me like recently on my Instagram. Because my body was a little like out there.
Oh, I
for the
think I saw
world.
that post.
My body is valid, and it is, and I think,
loud, yes.
and that for me was a really hard shoot because I gained a little COVID weight. You know, we know we gave it a little cushion for the pushing, right?
We know
And
what
so-
the 19 for COVID-19 is,
Yeah,
right?
right?
19's that pounds that,
that
you're
pounds.
gaining.
And so I was feeling a little like I didn't want to do it, but then I remembered like I have to do this. This is so important to tell. It was kind of like this African Eve, like Garden of Eden. Yeah,
I
and I
definitely
thought
saw that.
we need to be empowering Black bodies. You know, we need to be empowering the women to think that like your body is fucking beautiful, girl. Damn. Like, and I say this to them all the time because I'm always amazed by Black beauty. It just like
You said that
I-
the moment I walked in the door.
I was like, ooh, girl.
like, whoa.
But like I think it's so rare that we hear those compliments. It's always like your skin is too blank, your hair is too blonde.
I got that from family members.
Yeah. And so when racist conversations come up or people come for me, I just like
We just handle it. We just do it.
and
they
whatever
just handle
means
it.
that is. Yeah, sometimes
And,
you just have
like,
to let it go.
Yeah, sometimes you let it go. That's not always like just coming back to the original question asked. Like I said, violence not the answer, but just letting it go also not always the answer. Sometimes you do just have to take
Teachable
take
moment.
take a deep breath, register in your head the mentality of the person who you're speaking to, recognize that it is very different from yours. And then just if you ask a misogynist, a homophobic, a racist, if you ask any of these people just why?
What's going on for you?
Why?
Yeah.
What's that
They don't
internal?
know what to
Yeah.
say when somebody, especially when it's like, you know, like racial, like microaggressions of any sort, and they think it's like this, like, haha, like this is funny. And then you say, why is that funny?
Well,
Do you know they don't know that answer?
No, they don't. And this is.
Did you know
By the way, they don't know that answer.
They don't get it.
But I think this is the thing is that you were like, well, we've just had to deal with it, and you're right. I think what's different now, and what I hope to is going to continue to be different now, is that we won't stand for it, and we feel empowered to say, you know what, that's not right. There's nothing funny about that. There is absolutely nothing funny about that. In fact, it just hurts any cause we have for equality and for justice for people who are constantly getting berated with these types of comments and oppression. And it's also, thankfully, right now, for a lot of people, emboldening our white friends and family and allies to also say, not cool, man. Like, no.
Now, have you guys seen many of your white friends come out and support? Have you guys seen
Hell
many of
yeah.
your white
Yeah.
friends?
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. We don't talk about that. Like, we have to stop ignoring the fact that allies are okay. Like,
Yeah.
you're made of allies. My white mother made me who the Black woman I am today, right? Like, it's so important to have our allies to create space for us, for our voices. And unfortunately, that's where we were in the world, that we need them to create that space. And it's also okay to like be friends with other races. I don't know. We can't be saying what, like, we're telling people we want you to like love us for who we are. How can we not do the same back? Right? It's okay to be diverse. It's okay to be.
Majority of my friends like living in a small white town, predominantly white town, like 9 out of 10 of my friends, I can count my people of color on one hand.
Yeah, that was my
A
high
lot,
school.
yeah. Majority of my friends are white allies, and they're the first ones to say over there to say, I will use my white body to protect you in any way I can.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you got to give credit where credit's
That's-
due, and
yeah.
like it's due.
But also understanding
That's-
that there's going to be like some friends who just won't get it. And it's
They
going
ain't
to take
friends
some
anymore.
time. Hey, I mean,
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe.
No,
But also there's conversations to be had, and there's you have to kind of give people the opportunity to check their own privilege in a way that they just didn't understand was a thing or existed before.
yeah, there's definitely a certain type of bliss
Yeah.
when you do have a conversation with somebody who wasn't there, and then when they get there and they say to you like, I understand now.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sorry that I thought this way before. And I'm not even saying that I need an apology, but just like the recognition and like you are a truly open-minded person who can have that conversation. And you're not digging your heels in the dirt because you have, your fragility. You checked yourself, and that's something again, like that's so key. Yeah. But like it's such a warm, nice feeling when that does happen.
I really wish I could understand that feeling, but I totally get what you guys are meaning. You guys have anything coming up?
All the things are coming up. I mean,
Soka yoga.
Soka yoga. Dance starts again. Well, what's coming up? So, like, I obviously am the executive director at Guelph Black Heritage Society, and right now it's just, I think people always have this like pressure on us to be like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And you're like, "What are you doing?" Like, I'm behind closed doors every.
If the question was directed at me, I'm waiting to see what you're doing next.
What are you doing? Like, lists of things. Like, I think it's really important that organizations, bodies, white bodies, black bodies, indigenous bodies start working on really actively pushing for policy change. I am disappointed the Upper Grand District School Board, and I will call you out over and over again that you have not made the decision to take policing out of the schools. There's just to say, oh, well, essential workers aren't allowed in the school right now, so we're not making a decision about police because of COVID. Bull fucking crap. Like, that's crap. That's actual crap. We have to make the change yesterday, 300 years, 400 years ago, before all this crap, all of it, because there was a point where we were kings and queens, and we still are and always were. And at GBHS, it's really important for us to build the foundation so that our youth can start having a platform to speak, that our youth can start getting engaged with mentors like Ali and Dee, and even like mentors like Sophia and our Troy, like people who are the white allies teaching the right things to their white friends. That's really important. I'm speaking with the Guelph Police Service next month and their leadership team.
You've been speaking with them a lot lately.
Yeah,
Oh,
how's
it
that
does not
going?
stop.
What's going on there, Queen?
Yeah, I think Guelph has the ability to be like the city we want to be.
Yeah.
Other cities want to be, rather, sorry. And Chief Kobe, I think, is a little more forward thinking. I'm not saying he's perfect. A little more forward thinking than Larkin or DeRuyter, who have previously led in the past. And we see this with Larkin and Kitchener, that there's been hardly any moves. He's really hard to get a hold of. So I think we're making moves, but I'm done with meetings. I'm done meeting because meetings don't resolve things. Meetings make tangible goals, and it's whether or not you complete those goals as actionable.
I was going to say, I feel like the
right?
meeting just feels like a check mark in
It's
there.
like,
but,
oh, we discussed
we did
that.
it. We had that conversation, so we don't have to do anything more,
And
right?
the other step is, okay, I speak to the senior leadership team, but how many of those people are listening? Right? So I told him I'm coming with a quiz, and they're going to get quizzed, and we'll see how much they were listening, right? Because we can't walk out of there and they were like looking at me, but the whole time they're watching football in their head or playing golf or ready to go to Tim Hortons. Like, there's a possibility that they could sit there and look at me like they're active listening, but not taking it in. He's laughing because it's true, right? Like, we have to see them make action. So I know the GPS has a long way to go. Upper Grand District School Board has a long way to go. Guelph is really great because we have Lloyd Longfield. who has been petitioning for eliminating racist carding. He's the reason we had the ability to go out and speak at the House of Commons last month with Marvel Wisdom. He provides a lot of opportunity. He sits on the Black Caucus. He's like this white man surrounded by Black people, and he's like always, he's like the most proud white man. I love Lloyd Longfield. He's great. And Mike, like, we really have some leaders in the city who could make a difference. But what we discussed earlier at my house was that, okay, you know, people are saying, Queen, like, run for city councilor. Why the hell would I do that when there's 12 other white members who'd be involved with me? My voice is going to be continuously dimmed. So it's, where do we find our voice within this activism and leadership space so that we can make difference? And more importantly, working together. Halton Hills, BLM Guelph, Guelph Caribbean Association, the Outdoor School.
There's a bunch of student organizations I know that can get involved too.
Right? We
Yeah,
need,
through UG.
I think it's important we maybe have a town hall, because I think what, at this point, the only way to go further is if we elevate our voices together, or else they're all going to be dimmed under one small voice, because that's.
I would not have you be in a room full of white folks on city council.
Oh, that'd be
on
crazy.
Your own. You wouldn't
That'd
be
be crazy.
heard. That'd be nuts.
It'd be crazy.
No.
And so, you know, there are steps we're making. I think within Guelph Black Heritage, it's the educational tools, the online education, the work we're doing with the Guelph Civic Museum to diversify the non-existing educational piece. Like, museums and schools have all been built off of colonialism, as we know.
Yeah.
And Guelph Civic Museum has really recognized that. So we'll see stuff from the BLM protests, and we're going to work on a new acquisitions project. We're working with the Guelph Police Service on their block training for next year from January to April. So I'll be working with them and bringing in voices so we can help train them. And, you know, they have a lot of allotted hours for that training. And none of them have to do with diversity.
Come on.
So it's about time we change these things. As Alicia knows, as Dee knows, like, it's not just like city, like, a lot of these defunding the police is municipal, provincial level. Like, we can keep yelling at Mayor Cam all we want, but it's not his decision. And so we have to start amplifying the ways at which we use our voices, the way we educate ourselves, the way we educate our fellow leaders, so that we can get into parliament, so that we can get there, so we can petition and we can have our voices heard, so we can shut down the police association. What the frick is that crap? What is the Police Act? What is that? Let's have a Black Act, and, like, let's enforce that to protect our lives. The hell?
I'm in.
Like, the Police Act is literally written to protect them from laws that we're not protected from ever. Not just me, you white people, you too. I don't know why you're not mad.
Well, this is where the whole who polices the police conversation comes in. And that's another thing that a lot of, like, Blue Lives Matter people, when you do say something like that, because also, if anybody didn't know, there is a Blue Lives Matter thing that exists. That's
going around.
See, I knew Blue Lives Matter was like a hashtag, but I didn't know it was like a legit, like, hey.
Oh, there's
like,
a flag.
There's a flag.
There's a flag. That's apparently what makes things legit, is the flag. So, like, every day it's new things that we have to do. Every single day. I talk to you guys so much. Like, it's exhausting because you feel defeated. You feel like one step forward is 100 steps back.
Yep.
And then when you have gotten somewhere, your own community members, your Black men, aren't sticking up for you. And we need them to, as much as we do for them. And that's why women have been leaders together, because we've had to raise each other up. And, you know, it's going to continue. Policy change, activism happens behind closed doors. Don't forget that. Call out your racist friends and family. Yeah, I don't know. There's so much going on. It doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't.
That's the thing, is it's constant. There is no stopping. And there's no stopping being Black. We can't turn this
People
off.
don't get it. Yeah.
We can't wipe it off. You know, it's a constant thing to have to deal with. And therefore, the effort is going to continue to be draining, and we need to take care of ourselves. And it's kind of what it comes down to.
And justice for Breonna Taylor.
And justice for Breonna Taylor.
Because, like, if that doesn't show you what this system is like, I don't know what else does. It's just, like, defeating all the time.
Or even so, for people who talk about the well, it's a problem in America and not in Canada. DeFonte, Miller,
Regis, Orlando Brown.
all like,
The list goes
come
on.
on.
Yeah.
Well, and our indigenous
And
community.
our indigenous community, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really, really, really. I we don't have someone indigenous here, so we can't speak on their behalf. But what we can speak to is the fact that you brought us to this land safely and tried to protect us.
Mhm.
We've been working together for so long, and I am so sorry for what is happening to your people.
Mhm.
It's disgusting. It's inexcusable. And they've been dealing with it for 400 plus years too. Let's not forget that, right?
Mhm,
We are on
mhm.
their lands. I mean, we didn't honor that at the start of this, and we should have. But
Yep.
that being said, what we saw leading right after the protests on June 6th, at least, is that the lives that were taken within those 3 weeks were all indigenous. And I hate when I'm reading these articles and the indigenous lives, it's like unknown male, unknown female,
Oh, I
unknown
hate
male,
it.
unknown female. And you read it and there's no names to match this
These were lives lost.
this crime, this attack. Like
Yeah.
mental health is real amongst all communities. But we're not protected in ours, nor are the indigenous.
No.
And it's scary, and that's why we have to work together now. And what you are seeing is that rekindling of that relationship. I feel like it's always been rather strong, but it's just a whole nother level, because this time we ain't asking for civil rights. We asking for equal rights, straight and straight. No more of this civil nonsense. You obviously don't get what civil means, so we're just going to move on and ask for something different.
Mhm.
But I just
Basic human rights.
feel for these people every day.
And there's so much to learn from the indigenous community. I think
Yeah.
that's what's wonderful about
Yeah.
this sort of coming together. It's community. It's honoring Mother Nature. I'm
Shout out.
bringing in
Yeah.
my
Shout out.
but it's honoring Mother Nature. It's honoring connection. It's honoring us all working together and finding ways forward and building each other
Mhm.
up. That is what all indigenous communities are, including Black indigenous communities
Yes.
from Africa, from
Yeah.
the motherland, right? Like
Yeah.
it's all coming together.
Our
and I think
Latina indigenous, our
Latina indigenous,
Latinx
everyone.
people, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think you saw that even if we look at all the organizers from all the different protests, like you see that walk of
You
life.
see that diversification. You see all this intersectionality of Black, indigenous, those involved in the LGBTQ community as well. And everyone is building each other up right now, because it needs, all of these are conversations that need to happen. We're
Mhm.
talking not just any Black lives, but all Black lives.
Yeah.
Totally
Right?
agree.
And that being said, 6 Nations and some of our indigenous places are
Yeah.
really suffering.
They need help right now.
you are in a situation where you can donate, we've been putting boxes together and making discussions on how we can make that happen. It's time we stand up and
We're gonna
help
put some
them
stuff together.
the way that they have continuously helped us. So, if you are listening or watching this later, research some of that and get involved. And if you can donate, they need everything.
Yeah.
Everything: propane tanks, thermoses, clothing. They have no water, no electricity. Like, this is a crisis that has been diminished by media, like
Mhm.
completely ignored. Not to mention that they passed that stupid law about the train or the oil or whatever, the pipeline in
Oh.
Alberta while we were in COVID. Super sneaky. We're not.
I didn't hear about that. So that is super
They're
sneaky.
sneaky. So I mean, if you can do that right now, our indigenous people really need our help.
You heard her.
And we have
6
to
Nations needs
step
those
up.
donates. So go do what you do.
Go donate. Go spend that money, y'all. You know what? Give up your Starbucks for a week. They're racist anyways. Give them up for a
I
week.
gave up Starbucks as soon as I found out.
Yeah, right? Give them up. And I'm telling you, why not? First off, you want to save some money? That's a great way to start. But like, donate, give back, volunteer. It's so good for your soul, and you meet the raddest
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
We know that Surfcheck has that side hustle.
The side hustle.
We know that y'all on Serb have that side hustle, so like share it, you know?
Yeah. And I think COVID gave the opportunity for people to start doing internal work.
Yeah.
And that's key in this movement. Key. It doesn't matter how much you say I'm not racist. You have to do the internal work. I myself was built off of colonial mindsets. I was bred in a school made off of colonial structure in institutions created to downplay us as humans. And I have to check myself. I had to have a conversations with these ladies where I said, look, I did something really bad this week. And I judged the hell of Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris. And immediately my mind went to like, what has she not done for Black people when she's done so much, right? And I had to check myself too. And it's okay to be like, I was wrong, girl.
Mhm.
And Dee was like, you were wrong.
You're like, yeah.
And I was like, my bad. I had to check myself, do my own research, do the hard work, and stop listening to media. And it's so easy to
Yeah, we get so caught up in the social media, what it's telling us or what we choose to hear. I don't know. Like we
What
just
it
don't
chooses to tell us
what
also.
it chooses to tell us, maybe. But we have to do our own work. You're right. We have to do our own research and
It's
find
not-
out more.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like white people are always like, well, I feel like it's not just me. It's not just you. It is me too. We all have to do the work. You have to do more. But we all have to do the work to change.
I'm trying here, guys.
You
I'm
hear that? You
trying.
hear that?
Commentary from the peanut
All right,
gallery.
so I knew it was gonna get like that if I just let them go off. They were just gonna start talking and
yeah.
doing all this stuff.
Oh, right.
So let's get back to these questions. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. You guys can talk the whole time if you want.
Well, we will.
But
We can.
for Nick and Gain, I do have to ask you guys some questions.
Yeah, we can do that. We're okay with
We
questions.
can do it.
Yeah.
All right. Do-do-do-do. What voices do you feel inspired or shaped your vision of what's possible if we are able to get it right?
Angela Davis.
Angela Davis.
G?
Michelle Obama. There we go.
There's just so many. Oh gosh. You know what? Even Denise, the president of GBHS, has been a huge mentor to me. Marva Wisdom. She does tons in not only this city, but Toronto. Huge mentors. I mean, the list. God.
One of the other members of the Halton Hills Alliance for Social Change, like the founding member, Bonnie, has been this like amazing support. I look up to her. I'm like, I want to be you when I grow up. She is
Hashtag be Bonnie.
be Bonnie, yes. She's a Black and Indigenous woman. She works in an urban Indigenous school. She does so much for both communities. She is nonstop. She's on us with like, okay, we have this meeting. This is what we're getting organized. This is what we need to do. Like, we're slacking. Let's go. Like, she's like that, like motivation. She's also just an incredible mother to 2 young boys, and just like as a whole person, as a spirit, as a soul, she's like, she is incredible. She's my biggest mentor besides my mother.
This woman sounds amazing.
She is.
And like honestly, these ladies are my mentors and the people that I look up to too. Because I don't know it all, and we all don't know it all.
We can't pretend to know it all. Why should we? Yeah.
But it does help when you have your tribe behind you of, all sorts of diversity within our group.
Yeah.
And we've dealt through all sorts of crap in the last 2 months from everything it seems like. And these are the ones that keep me going. And on top of that, like I think about one of my exes, Wheezy, and his daughter, and she talked about she had to go up to her dad and ask, Daddy, am I going to be shot by a police officer? And she's the reason I do what I do. She's the reason. We had a story shared from Guelph Museums on this Black woman and her daughter who just recently was pushed off the jungle gym and called a Punjab N-word. And it broke my heart because that's my story. That was my story at Westwood Public School 25 years ago. And you're telling me that same story just happened pre-COVID? Pre-COVID.
Happened to you.
Yeah.
They were out at our protesting, and that exact moment happened to me
Yeah.
at Westwood. And I was told that I was in the wrong, or taught rather,
Yeah.
because I was young. I was like 4 or 5, right? Baby. Too young to be having those discussions, period. And so when my ex told me that, and he was like, oh, she's been looking up to you because you're protesting, and she's been doing, they have baby protests in Toronto, like where they'll set up for little kids. And I love that, but it's wrong. It's wrong. Our kids shouldn't have to go out there protesting for their lives or for their parents' lives. That's
fucked up.
fudged. Fudged.
Yeah.
It's not right. And she's the reason I do it. That story was told to me the night before the protest, and I broke down. I was like, that's the reason why we keep fighting. Our future is female. Our future is, they can't go through what we're going through. God,
That's
they
the
can't
big
go
thing
through this.
is that, like, you know, I'm not going to say how old we are, but we're
Black don't crack.
not spring chickens, but you wouldn't know. But the fact that I've had high school kids, high school females inbox me and be like, hey, like, I'm seeing what you're doing, and I appreciate it. I hope this isn't like too much, but I do want to share with you, this happened to me last year. And I'm like, so it's been a decade and that's still happening? And like, I've never been quiet about racism by any means. Never.
No.
Can you tell? But the fact that it's still happening, and these young men and women come out and they say that it's still happening, but it's nice to see somebody giving them a voice and making them comfortable to talk about their experience, and to even have somebody to talk about it with. Like, they are inspirational. They're like amazing.
Yeah. I was going to share that personally, because I'm in the business world. I sit at a desk, I look at a computer. I'm not proud of it, but there's a lot of opportunity, or I've been given opportunity more recently anyway, to get connected with other leaders in diversification and inclusion in the business world. And so there's a lot of people that I've been looking up to on a personal note who are making big changes and making sure that biases aren't followed when hiring, when promoting, when giving people a voice at the table. I'm in innovation research. We value diversification of thought and experience and everything like that, and how important that is. And I've been learning that over the last few years. And yeah, I'm having colleagues reach out to me now saying, what can we do? What more can we do? I'm even having clients ask me, what can we do to be better?
Don't make me straighten my hair for my interview.
Oh, yeah.
Do that.
Let me have my braids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. There's lots going on. There's a lot of people to look up to.
Yeah. And male leaders, like,
yeah.
Not to discredit, like, we can only speak for females because that's what we is, but we can't discredit all the wonderful work males are doing, from Desmond Cole to like, we could go on and on and on.
Our male friends are our partners. Just,
Yeah.
Anybody who has been a support system to us in any way is also like a big part of everything.
And I encourage our generation right now to make that step and get into offices and start being a VP of a company, start going to school and wanting to be doctors, because if we start creating representation for our youth, then they know where to look to. I didn't know where to go. Girl, I shaved off my eyebrows trying to look like Whoopi Goldberg because that was the only thing I knew. Like, that's crazy. And we need to have teachers, principals, doctors, lawyers. We need to see lawyers who can protect us. Politicians. Thank you. Yeah. Bar owners. Let's give a big shout out to Belay of Onyx, by the way. And Cindy, who's also a woman and leader. Like, it's, Belay, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I'm pretty sure you're the only Black owner in all of Guelph. Yep. So like, 7 years, shout out. Hey. And Belay's a close friend of mine, or I'd like to say that. Maybe he doesn't think that way. But, we've had conversations about like what it's like to deal with some people in Guelph and what those reactions are. And I think those reactions wouldn't come if we just know that this is normal. We all go to school. We all have families. We all bleed red. We all have skeleton under us. We all love hard. We all grieve painfully. There's no difference. So like our leaders, I think if our generation starts like being in different positions that we're not used to, firefighters, I can't even name a black firefighter.
I can't name a firefighter, but sure.
But if there's any black firefighters out there, I single.
You got me thinking. I'm trying to think.
Right? Like it's just like all those positions, police officers, even though I don't love that. I would say like the social worker side of it, right? The ones who are working in the mental health space.
But you don't need to be a police
Yes.
officer to work
No.
in a mental health space.
No, the social workers, the guidance counselors, there just needs to be more, the outdoor school leaders, like there's
The
leaders.
business owners,
Therapists,
the entrepreneurial.
thank you.
Yeah, therapists.
Yep.
Yeah. So if we start being that, then we're going to see that change happen. And we won't be so discouraged to not go to school to be a therapist
Yep.
because we feel safe and have a space.
Mhm.
Okay, I was just waiting for y'all to be done. I didn't know if you guys were gonna keep going or segue
Over
into like
to
another
you, sir.
conversation.
You have to keep us in line for real. Like,
That's,
You can just
this is
Like,
this is for you guys. This is for the people. This is for the voices to be heard. This is not for me to sit here and bust jokes like I am. Many Black Lives Matter activists are using the momentum behind this movement against police brutality to also raise other issues like economic inequality and discrimination against Black LGBTQ people. Why
T
is
plus.
this? Why is this intersectional approach to activism important?
Black does not equal struggle.
yeah, Black doesn't equal struggle, but also a lot of, I'm not going to say a lot, but no, I'm going to say a lot. I'm going to do it. A lot of people who I've talked to about Black Lives Matter and the movement and everything that's going on in the world lately, I'm like, but do you know who Marsha P. Johnson is? And they say no. And I'm like, look that up. Intersectionality, like you need to realize that like this woman started our movement and was such a driving
Trans woman.
force. Trans woman,
There we
yes,
go.
yes,
Just
yes.
explain.
I forget
is
that.
Marsha
I'm like,
Johnson?
why doesn't
Those who don't
everybody
know.
know this?
There we go.
You got the lights in your face,
I'm
like
like-
flying in your mouth.
No, honestly, I'm like, why don't y'all know this? But yeah, anybody who's been oppressed knows exactly what other people who have been oppressed are going through. We have those emotions, we have that communication. It's not the same, but it exists, and you can lean on each other and have that support within each other. And intersectionality is huge for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, although I'm Black, I am also a straight female. I am also,
You're also all things.
I'm all other things.
Yes.
Like, this conversation about intersectionality has come up a lot within the BLM movement, like you say, like, and it surprises me a little bit because I feel like we've always been that way. Like, there's always been that within gender, within sexuality, within preference, within everything. And it's just that we maybe not talked about it. Like Marsha, a lot of people don't know about. You're right. And it's shocking. And that applies to not only the Black community, but the queer community. Like a lot of people didn't know this. And we had to have that discussion again about who she was. And I just think we're not all just one thing. That would just make us the most boring human beings. That would make us a table. Like, no, like that's it. Like we're not that. We're living, breathing, cellular, loving. Well, some people are haters. People that feel emotions, hate or love, that want to be moms, that want to be aunties, that want to be business owners. We're all sorts of things. That's why it's always kind of related. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like actually it was recently we had a conversation around. Someone said, "Well, what about the women's movement?" And immediately it was like intersectionality. Like all can be true, both can be true. This is still a conversation about making sure that women's voices are heard. Now we're also talking about, as a reminder, there are Black women out there who whose voices need to be heard. So it's always going to be interconnected. Every conversation, whether you brought up economic, whether it be environmental, there's a whole kind of movement that I've been following on environmental intersectionalism in the Black Lives Matter movement. This is all the same conversation. It all needs to be talked about at the same time. You can't just put everything in a bucket as if there's sort of defined lines. It's a web that doesn't exist as kind of black and white in that way. Everything is a shade of gray.
And that's because all of these issues have been formed by systems of oppression.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
So you can't have one without the other.
Exactly.
You have to talk about all of it. You can't just be like, okay, so we're going to fight this system of oppression today. Everybody else fall back. No, you have to do it all at once. It's important. You can't conquer this without this.
We're not just fighting Black women lives, Black male, Black queer, Black, like the list goes on and
I
on.
even had a conversation with a family member of mine recently, and I asked this family member to support a Black-owned business in some way. They've got the platform, and the response back was, I can't be supporting all things at all times. And I was like, well, yes, you can actually. Like if
Exactly
someone,
what you could do.
you can actually do that. And it's not a matter of choosing. It's not a matter of being like, oh, I can't make that my thing this week, because then I have to make that next week. No, all things can happen at the same time, and it's not a matter of choice, because right now we're talking about human rights. That is all that it is.
He gets really into us talking.
I do. I'm just like, okay, like I'm
Lost.
gonna listen, right? Well, because I said, right, I don't know that much. Like I'm educated. Like, don't be like, oh, we said not to do that. Like I'm from Toronto, right? So like I didn't know what a white person was literally till I fucking moved to Guelph. Me and my family, we were the minorities, right? Like we were the only white family in the neighborhood. So when I came to Guelph, I was like, whoa, there's a lot of fucking white people here. A lot.
And wait, let's be clear also that there was a point in the 1880s when our ancestors came here and inhabited this city and built houses, Essex Street, all throughout downtown. They were here. And it wasn't until the late 1920s, 1930s, something made them leave. Where did the Black people go? Right? Like we need to figure out. Away. What? Shout out. We all know. I didn't want to say it because my family's Italian. But it's true. And we need that history discovered, because there was a lot of these places we inhabited. And then we were run out. People like to have that conversation. Oh, Canada's like, we're not that bad. My G, I kid you not, if you look back in history, slaves went back to America because they were being so mistreated in Canada. And we just don't have that conversation. It's so ridiculous that people just ignore blatant actual history that is written, by the way.
That's facts.
This
is
isn't
straight facts. You guys can Google it.
This is just made up.
That's facts.
So you keep saying, well, the information's not out there.
You're not looking.
Where are you? Where are you looking? Pornhub.com? It's got to you have to start doing all the research and all the education, because Guelph had Black history and it still very, very, very much does. There are white people who have worked very hard at structuring cities so that we feel eliminated, so we feel small, or so we escape to create our own communities that they then label.
What was that? I learned something when I was at your protest about Georgetown and the
KKK?
fact.
The KKK
Well,
in 1994.
Wait, what?
About that too, but
I heard that right?
The KKK in 1994.
Georgetown.
In
The
my-
KKK still.
Yeah. Let's not. We ain't fronting.
Shout
I'll
out.
do it again like I did with Halton. Georgetown, what the fuck's wrong with you?
It's so in 1994 on our downtown, there were KKK members, full hoods, everything, handing out information pamphlets to join the KKK. There's a lot of people in Georgetown. There are a lot of great people who are like, that is awful. I remember this happening. I can't believe that. We're a better community now, and we're going to keep striving to be better. And then there are other people who are like, well, that was in 94. I was alive in 94. And like I said, I'm not telling you how old I am, but damn, I ain't that old. come on. Like, was that what you were asking?
That was
Oh,
what
was
say,
your-
but I
just-
knew that amount.
You asked.
Well, because I don't know, one of us were talking about kind of segregating, creating communities, and there was something that I learned about Georgetown about kind of not allowing transit systems through town to keep out certain communities. Is that
Yes.
correct? Do I have that
Yeah.
right? Brampton and Mississauga aren't allowed to kind of like infiltrate or seek into,
Infiltrate.
you know.
But that's like probably what they think.
Yeah, probably.
So they cut off public transit
There is no public transit,
ever.
and they're saying that it is because of population density and numbers of population. And when that was brought up by myself to a certain town council member, they provided me with numbers to say, well, this is why, and these are the numbers from 2004. And if you know anything about Georgetown, there has been how many subdivisions pop up like constantly. I'm like, get some new numbers and then tell me that, or sit down. Like, oh,
Just sit down.
just sit down on the go bus from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. because you can only get the commuter. That's it. Yeah, crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And we're still dealing with these things like all the time.
That's crazy.
Somebody also just like not funny, but I couldn't help but laugh when I saw this. But there was somebody who posted on Facebook about COVID-19 and Halton being like low in numbers, and then somebody said, oh, I saw somebody and they didn't have their mask on in the lineup to go into the Walmart. I think they were from Brampton. And I said, ma'am, why do you assume they're from Brampton? Do you think that they gave me an answer? No. But we
all know.
We know what your answer, like we know what you're thinking.
So they thought because they didn't have a mask in the lineup outside that they were from another city. So I'm going to tell you guys a fun fact, because I work with public health and all that all the time. You do not have to wear a mask in the lineup.
Mhm.
You do not have to do it.
Mhm.
You can for your own safety, for your own will, but you do not have to wear a mask. When you go into a business, sure. But if you guys are ever in a lineup and you're like, man, this mask, you don't have to wear it.
We also
But
like
it wasn't because of it wasn't the lack of the mask. It was because it was a person of color.
Yeah.
And that's, you like, I'm sorry, if you see my mom in the grocery store coming to visit me, you're gonna point her out, and like it's weird that people think that way, and they're like, she can't be from here. I've had experiences where I've been at work. I was a bartender for like 10 years. I'm now also in public health, but I was a bartender for 10 years, and I had numerous occasions where people were like, but like, you're not from here though, right? And I'm like, oh, but I am. And they're like, oh, but like you just work here, you mean? Like you're from here because you work here, but you live in Brampton, right? And I'm like, no, believe it or not, I wasn't born in Georgetown, but I have told people, I'm like, I'm born and raised here. Does that surprise you? And people have straight up been like, yeah. Like, what?
I how many times I grew up in Uxbridge, which I don't know if anyone knows. It's
I
equally,
know. Yeah.
you know it. It's
Oh my
equally as white a town
Leave it to the white
as
guy to know where that is.
Georgetown, right? That's where I grew up. It is what it is. But how many times I've gone, back since, and I was there my entire childhood, all through high school. That is my town. That is where I'm from. How many times I've gone back since, and people have actually come up to me and said, so welcome to our town. You must not be from around here.
You're not from around.
I'm like, no, I grew up here. Thanks for the kind.
I don't know. I know
Welcome,
Uxbridge. If it was like
Bill.
Uxbridge people, they'd be like, well, you don't belong here. So
You
gotta
don't
get out of our town
belong
there, bud.
here.
That's how those Uxbridge
That's
people
pretty
talk.
much what that meant. Yeah, that happens all the time.
and I
Here
you-
is not like the other.
Yeah.
Right?
and I
Hmm.
think that discussion about masks is really interesting because we're trying to be safe. There's 2 pandemics happening. I know what y'all Karens be thinking when I put on a mask. So I'm
Karen.
sorry.
I know what you Karens
Look at
think.
him.
Slow.
Look at you, huh?
slow, slow, slow. No, I know what I fear for, like, especially my Black men, like being in a mask and just trying to stay away from COVID, and then someone just assumes something based on your color of skin, and then the next thing you know, you're arrested, you're pinned down, we've lost another life. Things like Crime Stoppers need to be abolished. It can maybe be used for human trafficking, but you can't have people snitching, calling, working straight with the police, and then have people like potentially lose their lives because someone thinks you have a gun when you're just on your cell phone.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah. The whole week that when George Floyd was murdered was actually it was sparked that day from the incident that happened in Central Park in New York. What's his name?
With
Oh
the
my gosh, I'm drawing a blank.
like with Karen in the park,
With
Central Park
Karen in
Karen.
the park.
Central Park Karen, who's from Kitchener Waterloo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y'all don't believe this things happen right back at home.
Karen.
Central Park Karen's from Kitchener. She went to the University of Waterloo.
I think that we need to tell people in case they
Yeah.
don't
Yeah,
know
'cause
about
Let's talk about
I have
Central Park
no
Karen.
idea what you guys are talking about.
I
So
wish I knew the names right now.
I wish I
Please
knew
help
his
me.
name too.
They both had the same last name, which was random. But
Troy back there knows.
that was an interesting moment for me. So the story goes basically that this gentleman was bird watching in Central Park.
Black gentleman
Was bird watching in Central Park, and asked a white woman to leash her dog in an area that required leashes. She was not having it, and proceeded to call the police on this man. And what's that? Cooper. Yes, Christian Cooper called the police on this man and fabricated a story of being harassed by this gentleman and kept referring to him as an African American man.
And she went from 1 to 100. The minute she heard a cop on the
Oh.
other side or like someone listening,
she all of a sudden she was panicked and she was upset. And this gentleman is recording the whole thing on his cell phone
while she's also torturing her dog.
torturing her dog. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Recording this whole thing on his cell phone, and he's not doing anything. He's not coming
would
closer
think.
to her. He's just standing there, and
He's like, call the cops
that happens because
all the time.
his skin color was weaponized in a really effed up way. I don't know if we can swear. Sorry. And that was tough for me because then what happened later that day with George Floyd was exactly what she wanted to have happen to this man, to Christian Cooper.
Yeah. She knew what she was doing.
She knew what she was doing. And she's from Kitchener Waterloo. Yeah.
She is.
That's really, yeah.
Yeah. These people know what they're doing. It, like we said before, like you could just not talk, but you go out of your way, my G, to like do racist things. You go out of your way.
That was uncalled for. This man is just enjoying his day, asking a very simple request of someone.
Imagine that in 2020, you can't go for a walk in the park because you're a Black male.
Imagine in 2020, you can't lie asleep in your own bed.
Can't go for a run.
Can't go for a run. Can't pull out your phone.
Can't play with a toy.
Can't be Black. Period. It's
Hoodie,
just like
can't be Black. No.
it's craziness. Like, and I feel our energy change. Right? Like you just felt that shift right now where we were talking about all this like amazing stuff. And the minute we have to talk about this crap, it kills us.
It's real, man. That's why, yeah, this man was enjoying bird watching. This is what am I all about is feeling safe, enjoying the outdoors, feeling safe. I don't know, just enjoying the things that you want to enjoy.
Well, like Queen said, or Breonna Taylor sleeping in her own damn bed.
Where you should feel safe.
Where you,
Or even like our ones who call the cops to help them because they're in a mental health crisis. They physically make the call and like, or your family because you're just worried. And I know like we really need to make that change
Yeah.
in policing and in social work and in crises like this. I'm not saying we don't need to protect our social worker, but there doesn't need to be an officer with a gun. There doesn't need to be an officer in uniform. And the officer sure as hell should not be the first person in the room. They are there as a resource for the mental health person because you don't know what you're going into. And I can recognize that because we don't know what's in people's houses. We don't know what people are dealing with.
Don't assume the worst.
But don't assume the
immediately.
worst. And you can probably escalate it.
But like, okay, so there are
De-escalate
social
that.
workers. There are social workers. Okay, not even social workers. I have close friends who are educational assistants, and they go into schools with SWAT gear, but they don't ever have to restrain. Yeah, like under their clothes, they literally have to wear protective gear because they can be like bit in case a child is acting out in any way, right? So like, not over exaggerating that. And I had this conversation with one of my friends who is she's 5'4" and like maybe 90 pounds soaking wet. And she's like, I've never, ever, ever had to use extreme force with any of the kids or whomever I am working with. And they're big grown people. And she's still like, I have never felt the need to use that much force with somebody. She wasn't educated that way. How were the police trained to handle these situations?
And we've seen our Toronto Police Service in Peel. Yeah, I'm talking to y'all. Arrest children.
Children,
handcuff them.
6-year-olds in handcuffs.
We've seen it happen. How are we supposed to possibly imagine that you're just not going to shoot us in the street and cover it up?
The first time I was in the back of a cop car, I was 12. I was handcuffed and put on the ground and then put in the back of a cop car for causing mischief.
Mischievous woman, you.
Never stopped since. Kidding.
Yeah. Oh, my brother in Toronto, he was helping an opossum out. He was relocating a possum, and a neighbor called the cops on him, thinking that he was up to no good.
Trying
Why?
to help a possum.
Trying to help a possum. He's the sweetest.
Oh, yeah, it's you can't even do good without potentially being in harm's way.
Yeah.
And so every day, well, people don't believe it or not, we walk outside of our house and we face danger.
Even in Canada.
The
Even in
other
Guelph.
day, there was noises going off and it was fireworks at Margaret Green Park. And as you guys know, I'm extremely triggered by, and trigger's not the right word. We need to change that. I should correct myself because, yeah, we know that why that's not a good word. That being said, it brought up a lot for me and we didn't know what it was. So I went outside and I opened my door and I walked out and like you could hear them amplifying again. And I didn't say anything. I didn't come back inside, but my roommate's inside, Vanessa. And then she comes out running and bawling because she didn't know. And she's like in her head, which is so sad, is that's what she resorts to, is that I thought someone was out there shooting a gun at you because I couldn't hear you. All I heard is noises. All I hear is sounds. And wouldn't surprise me if that happened. And like, that's the reality for us as BIPOC women, males, females, and our white allies who protect us and love us. And what scares me is that one day, one of my white allies is also going to stand up for me and they're going to be gone. And like, that kills me too.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like,
well, the fact that our allies have to say to us that I will put my body in harm to protect you. Why do you have to do that? It's
we should just be decent humans.
Like, yeah.
It's really simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a simple thing to be a decent human being. There's not
just
enough
don't be
in
shit.
the world.
Just period.
Like I said, I just got immersed. Every time you guys start talking, I'm just like a little kid, and I'm just like, okay, what's going on today?
And I think that's where people need to be at.
And I totally agree. Yeah, people need to just shut up, listen, don't talk, don't say nothing, don't be like me. Just you know what I mean. Just be there for the people. Just be there. Let them know that you're there, and do everything you can. That's what I do with you. Yeah. We've always been that way, though, regardless of any of this. but now even more so because, like you guys said, it needs to be. There's change. It has to be changed. There needs to be voices heard. There needs to be something needs to be done. It needs to be done now because this has been going on for
The
way too
change
long.
starts now.
I did just receive. We have 10 minutes left, so if you guys want to
Ooh.
talk about whatever you guys want, because I'm loving this little panel thing you guys got going on. It's just like I ask a question, it's like 20 minutes. Bam, okay, go.
Yeah, easy.
I don't even know if we're answering your question.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
know.
Keep going on.
I think you
think
guys.
that
I
we
think you
just-
guys
yeah.
are, but at the same time, you're like
Creating our own.
segueing and creating your own.
Is there anything specifically that you wanted to ask us that we maybe just kind of breezed over by our own intensity? Was there anything that we like missed?
Intentionally or like
Because like we're trying, but
I mean, there's always questions that everybody wants to ask. It's if they're appropriate questions to ask. I feel me being a white guy, there's some questions that I can't ask, and I won't. So yeah, that's that because I'll ask Queen on our own time because I just I'm not
Hit up
nervous
my
around her.
DMs. Oh, really?
I don't know your friends like I know you, so
Yes.
it's more so it's like you know what I mean. I don't want to be disrespectful in a way like I could say something that you guys don't like or something. Whereas if I say something the Queen doesn't like, she'll fucking tell me. She's like, well, you know,
I'll check you quick. Yeah.
we'll
But, you
we'll,
know,
we'll tell you.
I don't want the way you guys are gonna tell me though.
You know what? And I think you ladies have done such a good job at checking people while also trying to remain humble and kind despite what other people's reactions to your reactions are. I don't know if y'all have seen like some of these Facebook groups or some of these online things. It's just insane. It's insane how we have to fight for ourselves while y'all are using Twitter fingers. We're out here getting done by trigger fingers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
Can I
tough.
use that in a song?
Looking at, like,
Yes.
comments on even on the Guelph Today post of our protest.
Oh,
And you
yeah.
would see the comments, the
Oh,
threads.
So
the
they've-
comments were absolutely.
They've turned off
disgusting.
comments on all GBHS
Oh, man.
articles because
It's
we're getting
tough.
too much racist
It's
comments.
tough to watch because you want to think better. You said it yourself. We had over 5,000 people show up to our protest. That is wonderful. The fact that we had that many people, but there's still people out there who hold opinions that I just don't understand, and it is it takes me down though. Like it
does.
really does, and my roommate can attest to it. Like I read these comments and then I just get so down. I'm like, why are we doing this? What are we doing? What are we accomplishing right now?
Is this really our community?
Is this our community? I want to hold people to a higher standard. I love this community. I want to live here for a very long time,
Yes, and you will.
and I will.
Wink, wink. You know what that was about. And let's
Yeah.
Guelph is a really great city. Like
Really
we
is.
do have beautiful community members. We have beautiful companies. We have small businesses that are really good at supporting and spreading messages and being accountable. Like Blooms and Flora, for example, changed their like whole setup and now they have 30% BIPOC owned. Like we're seeing these
We
things
had a
and
lot of
changes
support
happen.
even on the day of the protest. All the
All the
donations that we
volunteers.
got and the volunteers. Like there is a great community here.
Yeah.
I
The
just
people who have reached out, like especially like at the time of our protests, that were like, listen, like I'm sorry, I live with people who are immunocompromised. I can't make it this day. I can't do this,
Yeah.
but I really want to help. Where can I donate? What can I do? Like anything. It's
Yeah.
like those people are so amazing to have, and that's great. But I'm sorry to say, if all of those people come together and it's such a nice thing, but it still dehumanizes me when that one person says that one other thing.
yeah.
And that's something that like white allies, like just remember that,
It
you know,
takes us down each and every time.
every single
Every
time.
time.
And it doesn't, you've got, you know what, you've got 10 people lifting you up like to the extreme, and it's great.
Yeah.
And I feel like as women of color, we don't show it as much.
We're not allowed that
We're not-
space.
we can't.
That's
even
another
start that
conversation.
conversation. We can't. We can't.
We only
But
got 7 minutes.
and we need more.
Get it in 7 minutes.
No.
The strong black woman trope is very, very, very dehumanizing. It needs to stop. The implication that anybody who is a person of color, especially a woman of color, is, I don't know, ratchet, ghetto, radical, aggressive. Because because I'm sorry, I'm what you did some shit that I'm gonna say some fuck shit. You did some fuck shit, and I'm upset by it. So why is it different for me? Why is it aggressive for me to express what you're doing is hurting me? Or why are why are we held to this standard of like, oh, you're doing a great job. I'm not actually going to ask you, though, what's really going on because you are a strong Black woman. You are a strong woman of color. You got this. And sometimes we don't got it. Yeah. Help, it's a really bad brush to paint every freaking woman of color with. Like, realize
And
that.
I mean, we are strong, we are resilient, but we're also the opposites.
Mhm.
We feel pain, we feel grief, we're spiritual, we're connected. Yeah. We have all sorts of parts of us, and we have to stop amplifying these negative parts of any of the BIPOC community. Yeah. It's about time we start seeing this change. It's about time, we see more of this. It's disappointing that it took the protests to get here.
For us
but
to be on this couch.
Yeah. No tea to Gain Media. You guys are amazing. But in general, like the scope of this concept, right?
Yeah.
It's that it took us this long to recognize, oh my gosh, we have like really racist statues up of slave owners, or oh my gosh, we have a diversity team and it's all white people, or like all these things are now being realized. But I think that the difference is we have this kind of new wind coming through, breezing on in of like white people are also fed up.
Oh,
so
they angry.
And our, Asian community's fed up, and our Indigenous community's fed up, and everyone is done. Yeah. So we're going to see that new momentum and change. But at this point, don't get complacent. No. Don't stop fighting just because COVID and you're trying to figure out a new life. And you're like, I don't know what to do about my kids. Well, we don't know what to do about our kids, not only with COVID, but how to protect them from the police. So you're going to have to deal with it. It sucks. It sucks when you have to put out something and you get backlash. And they're like, well, I get attacked by people when I say this.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
You're uncomfortable. You know what that feels like?
Welcome to my life. Every time I open my eyes.
Book a therapist because you guys have access to it, not like we do. Right. So book an appointment, get help, talk to your friends, talk to your girls like we do, build your tribe, but don't
make mental health available.
Make mental health available. Yeah. And, give back to the Six Nations community right now.
Yep.
And share this message because these ladies came out and did such a great job and are really, really, really valuable people. And some of the people you see in the media, like our Black leaders, are really valuable too, but we can't forget all these small people who are making massive moves. So I really do want to thank you guys for coming out with me today because you're my sisters. You are the loves of my life. You're my sandbox sisters. And I just, I wouldn't be here today without these ladies. So I'm just really grateful. Yeah. And thank you, Belay, because shout out
to
Belay.
Hey.
Okay. So thank you for coming here. Thank you for being here. Thank you guys for coming and sharing the couch with the beautiful queen. I'm B. Joseph Music. That was Genres of People with Kween Kay and the BIPOC community. Again, donate Six Nations. Go down to your local shop. Come see Belay, man. He's got a great business here.
Support Black business. Support Black business.
Yeah, I'm so glad you came. I'm so glad that you gave me a second opportunity to do this again. Hella way more nervous this time. Maybe because we're in a venue. Maybe because Belay's there. I don't know. Cindy just walked in. Now I'm shaking.
There's some pretty badass queens up here. That's intense energy.
I love you.
All my heart, too, man.
Your middle friend, she's been trying to figure me out this whole time.
I'm reading that energy.
And I love all you guys' energy, D. I love the fact that you want to get the kids in the outdoor community and all that. I love everything you guys are doing, and I honestly can't wait to see the next steps that you guys are going to take, because I know you're going to tell me.
We don't stop.
And I hope that Gain is there for this entire journey. And we'll be doing it from here from now on.
Yay.
All right, so shout out to Onyx for letting us do this. This is Gain Media. You're watching Genres of People. Thank you. Have a good night.